What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark, Season 5, Episode 8. Mr. Rick Calhoun from Honey Picks. Dude, thank you so much. It's so nice to see you in person. We've talked a bunch, but it's nice to see you in the flesh.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thank you so much for inviting me. So
Yeah,
glad to
dude.
be here.
Yeah, man. So I got a bunch of stuff to get into, and as we just talked about right before this, I never get to it all.
Yeah.
And I got a bunch of your picks in front of me and a couple of the other ones that I've used throughout my history, and we'll get into some of that too. But what for you, like what is your earliest musical memory that ties into where you are now?
Okay, so my earliest memory that I can think of, I grew up in church and my mom sang in church. And so since she sang in church, she's always practicing at home. So she would always be practicing at home and singing at home. And one of my mom's favorite artists was Bonnie Raitt. So growing up, like Bonnie Raitt was on the radio or on the speakers and stuff, playing through the old cassette tapes. And
Yeah.
I mean, just that's probably the earliest memory I can think of. I mean, there's always the the Marty McFly, blasting the speakers and all that. But I mean, earliest is definitely my mom singing, you know.
Okay. Okay. Did she play like guitar or piano or something at
No,
home?
I think she took like maybe just a couple lessons of piano when she was a teenager, but she never did anything with it. But my mom can sing, man. She's got a beautiful voice.
Nice. Nice. Anybody else in your family musical? Or is it just coming from your mom?
I mean, my dad loves music, and he's got a guitar and a bass, and he's flirted with the idea of playing, but he's never played. My grandpa, his dad, played guitar,
Okay.
but he passed away when I was a baby, so I didn't know. But the neat thing about that is that's his guitar was passed down to my dad, and when I turned like 15, 16 in 10th grade, I asked him if I could play guitar, and he got the guitar out of the closet, gave it to me. Learned on that through like some guitar tabs and stuff. I never took any real lessons. Come to find out, that was a 1965 Gibson J45. And so that's my baby now, and you know that's
It's
the one
not a bad one.
that's the one I'm grabbing if the house catches on fire. So
Oh man, that's awesome, dude. Man, you know what's crazy about that? Like having grandparents who played. My grandfather, he passed away when I was in high school. But my parents had a couple of his acoustics like laying around the house and stuff. And one of them was like a knockoff hummingbird. It wasn't a real hummingbird. And the other one was, which is actually being refurbished right now. The other one was a Harmony Vogue. And I didn't know this until very, very recently that it was from 1939. And it's the same wood that they used in all those pre-war Martins and stuff. So I found out that there's a dude, that guy, Scott Baxendale. Do you know about him?
no, is that this? Seems like I've heard of a Baxendale EQ or something. Is that the same guy or something
So
different?
he like refurbishes all these old like catalog Silvertones and all those like harmonies and stuff. He'll like refurb them, like take the top off, rebrace, all that. Like Jeff Tweedy has got him done, like Jason Isbell, like a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And I found out about him through a friend. So my guitar, I sent it to him in May, and he's like, okay, I finally got to it, because there was like 40 guitars before mine. But he's redoing everything with it, and I can't wait to hear it, because it's those old instruments that have like songs in them.
Yes.
It's
got so much character. So that's where all the mojo's at. There's something about a vintage instrument. I mean,
it's so weird, man. I mean, and I haven't really, like, have you played a bunch of vintage instruments in your time so
no,
far?
I've got I've got that J45, and like there's something special about that guitar. And like my breed love is back here, and I love that guitar, and it's my everyday acoustic. But there's just something about picking up that J45. I mean, and like you said, there's just songs in it. I can play that and just pull more out than I could ever get out of this guitar. And this is a great playing guitar. It's not that, it's just that guitar is special.
Yeah, that's so crazy. So you were in high school when you started playing guitar?
Yeah, I was like I think I was 15 or 16 going to 10th grade. I was in jazz band.
Okay. Right away?
No, well, what happened was I was playing saxophone
Ah.
And I love saxophone, and but the whole time I was in jazz band, I was like, my best friend's over there playing guitar. I'm like, man, he's so much cooler than me. You know, so
Right.
I had to, pick up guitar then, and I just loved it. I mean, just played hours on end every night I got the chance.
So did you like, growing up listening to your mom, listen to great music like Bonnie's music
Yeah,
in the house and everything? Did you at that point, as a youngster, like listening to that stuff, did you figure at any moment, like when was the moment where you're like, okay, I gotta find some other music that I like? Like did you seek anything out?
that definitely started like around 12 years old, like 11, 12. Like listening to, I was into contemporary Christian music back then, like the Wow CDs. I don't know if you remember any of those, but
Mm-hmm.
I would listen to the radio too while I was playing video games or whatever, and just listening to music. I've never been somebody that hears first. I always hear the music and I always get the tune in my head, and I always wonder, like, how did they get that sound? Like, how did they? When I first started playing guitar, I had my first electric was a Suzuki Strat
Nice.
with like a 10-watt Gorilla amp,
Nice.
and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't play AC/DC riffs on it. It just nothing worked. And then I I found out, oh, there's this thing called distortion and these pedals, and it didn't even have reverb. So for a long time, like I just ditched that amp and grabbed my mom's karaoke machine because it had reverb in it, and I used that, and it sounded way better.
Nice, dude.
But
Nice.
yeah, I just really focused in on like sounds. I just remember really thinking about how things sound.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
going into your career and with picks and everything. Um, so that Gorilla amp didn't have like an overdrive channel in, or did
Dude,
you
it
couldn't?
had it had what volume and tone.
Mhm.
I think it was just volume and tone, and
That's crazy.
it was like this big, and it was no reverb, no nothing, and oh man, and I wasn't a good player back then anyway, so nothing sounded good.
I remember those things like a little bit, like seeing them around. But that's funny that you couldn't even crank it to get it to break up at all. It was just loud and clean.
It was just if it did break up, it was too loud, and my mom was like, "Turn it down back there." But
Bonnie doesn't turn down, mom.
that's right. But yeah,
That's awesome. So like at that moment, when you're playing electric, were you like, I'm gonna go get some pedals, or were you like, I gotta upgrade this amp? Like
I
what happened?
like I think I got a practice crate amp, like a GX15.
Okay.
I got one of those, and it had a overdrive channel and reverb, and just those 2 things, adding reverb and overdrive, opened up everything for me.
Yeah.
And then after that, um, a guy at church that was playing lead guitar, I was back up to him. He was like an older mentor to me, and he sold me his. Do you remember these digital amps, the Fender Cyber Deluxe,
I,
the Cyber series?
I do remember those.
So
Yeah.
when I got the Cyber Deluxe and I had all the effects, all the everything built into this thing, that was just like a huge eye-opening experience for me. Like I felt like I could play anything if I put my time into it. The tones were there. I just had to get my ability there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I remember those Cyber Twins, and I remember thinking at the time, like I didn't understand what was going on with technology because I guess at the time I was too young to appreciate what was happening in the cycle of technology in our industry. But it's funny to think about how many players. I know a lot of people that do church gigs like every week,
mhm.
and the amount of church guitarists that I know that are using HX stomps or Kempers or whatever, Axe Effect stuff, it's just exponential now. Like that part of the industry, at least like in contemporary Christian music and like people are doing church gigs, it seems like that's the go-to because you can just like have the same tone every single song. Like you can just dial it in. And that was the beginning of it, I guess, when you
Yeah.
really think about it.
Yeah. And with so many churches wanting to go to like a silent stage, I mean,
Hmm.
it's kind of like your only option at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such an interesting gig too. Like I was playing with a bass player for a while who he's the MD now at his church, and he was telling me something about using Ableton to trigger lights and like lyrics now and all this stuff. I'm like, dude, that's like a whole it's like a whole show. And I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not a church going guy, but like that's crazy. Like I respect the
but
like process of that stuff.
yeah.
You know?
My first experience with like a silent stage and using in-ears, my friend played church and he asked me to come play with him one Wednesday or Sunday, I can't remember. He's like, sure. He's like, oh, we do in-ears. I'm like, no problem, just mix it, whatever. And so we had like, I don't know, just a few minutes before we actually started to play. And when it came time to play, I put the in-ears in and like I heard drums and the guy's voice barely,
Oh.
but just like it was nothing but just like drums blaring in my ears. And I looked at him and I had the intro. I had the intro and I'm like, so I didn't play because I didn't know, and so he's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I can't hear." So I took one ear out, we started over, and I just watched my friend's hand. He was doing like this, and I was just watching his strum and where his hands are on the chord, and I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna watch you the whole time to try to figure out where I'm at."
Dude, that is
That was
nuts.
rough, man. That was rough.
Oh man. Have you messed with it like any of the HX Stomp stuff or anything like
I
digital
had
model?
I had a HX Stomp for like a whole 2 minutes, and it wasn't for me. Then I've currently got like the little Head Rush MX5 or whatever it is. And the touchscreen on that's pretty cool. It's pretty intuitive to use. But as soon as I put it down, I plug in my two pedals. It just like, I just, the feeling's not there. Like if it's something I'm recording with, like I can get the tones, but I don't get that feel and it's just not inspiring to me.
Yeah.
But
Dude, I hear you. I hear you. Here's our buddy. Hey Jeremy, thanks for popping
yeah,
in, man. And then BV is in here. BV is the moderator here. So BV, thanks again for all you do and answering questions and stuff that pop in. All right, so let's go down the rabbit hole really quick before we jump into picks.
okay.
All right. So I had a Kemper. I sold it after probably about 4 months of having it because I was like, this, I just, as much as I want to embrace all this stuff and like love it to death, it's just not me.
Yeah.
And until I find something that's going to click. But for you, tell me about currently, like, what's your favorite stuff to play through electric wise, like amp pedals? Like, tell me your favorite stuff from the past, even from the beginning of quarantine, like things that you have purchased that you absolutely love.
Oh man. Let's see. Okay. So right now, my board that I'm using, well, the guitar I use, I'll start with that. I'm a really big fan of like the Music Man guitars. I've got a Cutlass that's kind of like a Strat type thing, and then I've got a Stingray, which is a double humbucker guitar, and it's pretty sweet. I've got a 335 that I love.
Oof,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean it's a great guitar, and a Telly. Can't go wrong with a Telly.
You got
So
everything covered.
with those guitars right there, the only thing I kind of feel like I'm missing is like a guitar that's got some P90s in it. But I mean, I'm pretty good there. The amps I'm using, I'm kind of using like a nothing special, pretty stock stuff that you can buy at the music store, but like a Fender uh, Deluxe reissue, the Custom 68 Deluxe,
Mm,
and on the other side I've got an AC15, and those two together, they kind of fill in each other's frequencies and sounds really good together. On my board, I like to use a compressor. I don't like to have it, you know, very strong like a country like chicken picking thing, but just kind of there to kind of give some sustain. But I like the Wampler Ego for that.
me too, man.
I
That's
like the
great
blend
compressor.
on it. I mean, it's just great compressor. And I just got a Brown Protein maybe a month ago, and I'm in love with that thing. Yeah,
Talk to me a little bit about that because everybody keeps telling me I need to try one, and like I've never played through a Nobles ODR one, so I have no clue how that feels under the fingers. But like, what do you love about that pedal?
like I've never played a Nobles either. This is like my first time playing through that. So, like the blue side is like a blues breaker type thing, and it's awesome. Like that's probably my favorite like go to overdrive. The noble side, the green side, it's like a rock machine for me.
Mm,
Like, I mean, it doesn't really get, like, hard rock, but, like, I don't know, man, it sounds like what I wanna hear in my head, like, when I want just a good overdriven sound, it it just covers it, and it's so easy on that pedal, like, you can put it anywhere, and it sounds good. Like, a lot of pedals, there'll be, like, a sweet spot,
mhm.
and you gotta hit it right there, but if you get out of that sweet spot, it's kinda, you know? But that pedal is so just usable anywhere you put it, and so, I don't know, it just feels good under the fingers. I don't really know how to explain it. You need to try one, definitely.
Okay. I
Um,
will. I definitely will at some point. It's because it has that doesn't the, like the ODR1 kinda has that, like, creamy, overdriven, saturated type thing on the top, like, it's not harsh, it's, like,
it's
nice
not
and smooth.
it's not harsh at all. It's not near as, mid-humped as a tube screamer, I don't think. I've heard that the Nobles is, like, super bass heavy, and this green one is a little bass heavy, but it's not, like, awful.
Mhm.
It kind of fits, especially when you stack it with the blue side. It kinda takes a little bit of that out and kinda, pulls it all together. But I really like that, and I've got a pedal coming to me. I just bought a pedal, like, yesterday or 2 days ago, the 1981 DRV. Like, I've seen it. I mean, so many people have it. I've never tried it, and I'm kinda wanting to dip my toes into some, you know, distortion sounds, so
Nice. I've heard nothing but good things about that circuit too, man.
yeah.
There's so many now. That's it's the hardest thing is the, like, the FOMO sets in hard when you're just like, "Oh, should I try that?" It's like
Yeah,
another overdrive pedal, but it probably should. I probably should
yeah.
try that. You got some family in here, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
my brother. Now that
Yeah.
he's the other half of Honey Picks, so it's me and my brother.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks
yeah.
for stopping in, Andrew. You guys make some great stuff, man. Um, yeah, I think that, it's so funny, like, the Blues Breaker circuit, for instance, that's new to me in the past couple years.
Oh,
I never
really?
played through a Blues Breaker. I played through the amp. I had an amp that I played through, when I was living in Boston that was in a studio that I played through a Blues Breaker, and it was killing. It sounded great. But the first one I played through was the JHS Morning Glory.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, how much is this thing? They should be charging way more for
Yeah.
this. Um, and that was when I was like curious about, what's the deal with the Blues Breaker circuit. And then like I had the Duelist too at some point, but I think I wasn't using it correctly. I don't think I was like really dialing it the way it should have been dialed, but it sounds great. Like Blues Breaker circuits are awesome with slide. Awesome.
See, that's the thing, like, I love all the like, if you looked at my phone and saw my, like, playlist that I listen to, slide player after slide player after slide player. I love it. I just can't play it. I don't know what it is. Like, I need somebody to sit down and, like, show me the ropes, and just, like, I
Dude.
need to just, like, super glue it to my pinky and just because I think that's the only way I'm gonna get it, but I just love slide. It's so vocal. I don't think there's uh, any other way to make the guitar more vocal than a slide. It just
Yeah, there really isn't. Well, if we ever hang out, I'll show you some stuff that I picked up along the way because it really a lot of it has to do, honestly, man, a lot of it has to do with finding a slide that feels good on your finger.
yeah,
And I know Ariel talks about that all the time, but it's totally true. I mean, I've gone through I used to play slide on my ring finger. So like I
yeah,
was all into Derek trucks. So of course I'm like, that's what Derek does. So let's see if we can do this. But those Coruscant bottles are way too big. Like
mhm,
I don't have super fat fingers or anything. And like it just is not comfortable for me. For me. Some other people, it works great. But until I found those rock slides and started using, I bought Joey's and then I bought Ariel's and a few other ones. And he made me a glass one that's like for my pinky, that's like the size of the Joey one. Um, I was like, that was the first time I was like, now I feel like it's an extension of my finger. Now I feel like
yeah.
I can do this,
Oh, that's like I have Joey's and Ariel's signature slide, and they do like they feel, and I've got I don't have fat fingers, so they fit perfect on me because I've got slim fingers. and that is the most comfortable I've ever been on a slide. It's just I think my problem is maybe I don't have any all my guitars kinda have low action,
Yeah, that'll do it.
and so I need to raise it just a hair and maybe, like, go up another gauge, you know,
What
go
are
like
you using now? Are you using
like
10s?
well, I'm using on my Ernie balls, which are 25 and a half. I use 9s, and then in
Okay.
my Gibson, I use 10s, so pretty light,
Mhm.
but,
I mean, you could get away with playing slide in 10s, but 11s would probably be
yeah.
smarter.
I
So,
need to just take one guitar and make that my, go-to slide guitar and really work on it. Get it set up and really work on it.
Tellys sound awesome.
Yeah.
Slide, I'll say that much. I mean, I had a Telly in open C for a while, and it sounded dope. I mean, it was the best sounding instrument I had to play slide on. So,
And what gauge do you play on
uh,
strings?
right now, I started when I met Joey back in 2014 or whatever. He told me he uses 19 to 68 or whatever, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What?" And he was like, "Yeah, but you're dropping 2 whole steps, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Okay, I'll try." And that 19, my friend, trying to bend that a whole step in the beginning, arthritis central. I mean, it was like I really had to bend that sucker. And now my fingers have gotten better with it, but over time, I'm down to 16 to 64.
Oh, wow.
16 to 64, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And it just feels like a normal. It feels like I'm playing like 11s.
Right, because it's tuned down so low.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it definitely doesn't have that holy crap, I'm gonna have like carpal tunnel in 3 days. You know
Oh,
what I mean? So, but if you do it, you should definitely just get some strings. If you just like message like Scott or somebody from String Joy and be like, what is Ariel using right now? Or Joey using right now? And they'll tell you the gauges and you just try
yeah.
it. So all right, well let's talk about your company because I'm so interested, like so why picks, Rick?
I'm
Why
just
picks?
fascinated. I'm fascinated with picks, man. I remember like when I got that guitar and amp I was telling you about, that was in a pawn shop, that Suzuki and the Gorilla. So here I got this guitar and amp, and I'm like, what picks am I gonna get? And I remember looking in that little like display pick box. I'm like, okay, there's light, there's medium, there's heavy, there's colorful, and there's all these other things. So I just got like a variety pack of like five. They're like 25 cents each, right?
Right.
And even then, like from the very beginning, like I could tell like some picks just felt better in my hand than other picks. And I just I played Fender mediums for a long time. I played the Tortex for a long time, and I played the Jazz 3 for years probably, until I found a V pick. That was my
Mm.
first kinda introduction, and when I found the V pick, like, the first time I played it, I was like, "Wow, this is huge, and what's this gonna be like?" And it was kinda honestly cumbersome, and I didn't like it at first, but I stuck with it for, like, a week or 2 weeks, and then I was like, "Okay, there is some magic in this. There's something special about this." And that just took me on the pick journey, and so I was all into, V picks and gravity picks and everything else, and that just kinda I don't know, when we had some downtime in 2020, when all this COVID mess happened, and we had a laser machine and some acrylic at the shop, and me and my brother looked at each other and was like, "Let's make a pick." And so we made a pick, and then it's just been, you know, working hard at it every day since day 1, just trying to make the perfect pick, you know? It's
Yeah.
it's
So
just a
did
blast.
you yeah, I mean, early on, do you feel like you could instantaneously like hear the difference?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
do you, okay. Okay.
Yeah, like, with I could notice, like, uh, between, like, the different materials, like a Tortex is Delrin and the nylon picks, like, I could not only feel the difference, I could hear a difference, and I don't know, I guess I could just hear it, and a lot of times I would just stick my head down like this on the guitar and just kinda listen real close, and I don't know, I was a complete nerd about it, you know? But
You gotta be though if you're starting a company and you're really putting in the R&D, right?
yeah, so
So, I mean, do you think, because what happened for me with coming to you at some point to buy, a couple picks to try out, because I've since I'm still kind of like working them into. It's so hard to let go of something that you've been using for 15 years.
Yes.
But when we made these, which are killing, I mean, this is basically the pick that I use all the time now. I keep one in my wallet and I keep one in my guitar case. Just that, so I have that ready to go, but it's always in my wallet if I'm in like a store or whatever. And I'm finding what made me interested was when Buddy sent me, like, we swapped some merch, Buddy Blues, and I pulled out this pick and I was like, this thing's kind of gigantic compared to what I'm used to using. Let me see how this feels in my hand. And immediately what I noticed was not necessarily how it felt, but like how dark it
Yeah.
made the tone.
Yeah.
And that may turn some people off, but for me, playing a Strat and constantly wanting to attain a darker vibe, like, I like darker tones.
Yeah.
So this, I was like, holy crap, man, like, you could just pick up a different pick and apparently that can solve most of your problems, like, immediately. That was revelatory to me. And only probably this past year did I like discover, like, oh, just change your pick. And and even from song to song, if you're in the studio, you know what I mean? Like, what, it's like another pedal.
It's like an EQ pedal for your hands,
Yeah,
It's
it's
kinda
great.
like, people think of effects that way, and that does it very drastically, but a lot of people don't think about, number 1, the strings that you put on, like, that makes a huge difference, and then the pick that you use. So, I mean, the different material that you use, the different tip that's put on it, how thick it is, the shape of it. I mean, it all plays a part in your tone and the feel.
Yeah.
So,
It's crazy to me to think that little thing could create such a gargantuan difference in
and
how it feels under you. You know what I mean?
and it and it's kinda like when you buy a new pedal and let's say a new fuzz, right? And it's some completely different thing that you've not played with, and it pulls things out of you that you normally wouldn't do. That's kinda like going to a different pick will do. It doesn't feel completely comfortable at first, so it kinda gets you out of your comfort zone, so you're maybe trying something different just out of necessity of feeling comfortable with the pick, and then you kinda find something kinda, fun to play with. But I kinda feel like picks are little EQ pedals for your hands.
Oh, 100%, man. And you know what's strange too is I think the first time I played a gravity pick was when I bought the Greer Lightspeed,
Yeah,
and Nick, they always throw a pick in there. And I was like, "Oh, gravity pick. I've never tried this. I'm gonna try this." And then I was the same kind of thing. And this is only in the past. I can't remember when I had Nick on my show, but like this past year,
yeah,
2022. Um, and I was astonished at like how much I liked that because it's bigger. It's a little bigger than the Jazz 3. And for
right.
a long time before the Jazz 3, I used those Planet Waves, like medium green. They're like green
Yeah,
picks. Because one of my heroes used those and he threw a pick and I caught it and I took it home, tried to play with it, and I was like, "Oh, I like this." And then I ordered a bunch. Um, but it's weird because like when I played the gravity pick, I felt like there was a more focused attack,
yeah,
you know? And that's kind of how I feel about this pick too of yours. Is like it feels like I can, just by turning the angle of how I'm hitting the string, even I can totally affect how pointed the note is and all that, and not even turning it, just the angle in which I'm hitting the string, which is not rocket science. I'm not creating some new swirl for people. This is something that everyone's talked about forever, but it is very, there is something comforting about getting something that feels really comfortable in your hand,
yeah,
and that will allow you, like you're saying, to express yourself differently than you would before, but also to give you the confidence to, while you're playing, know that you can, feel like this thing's not going to fall out of your hand because you got a good grip on it, but like give you the confidence to play differently.
right.
And I think that's probably, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like that's why you guys are creating all these different things to try things out for people. So
I mean, there's been so many different picks that we've made, so many different things. Like I've got a couple things here I can show you like this is an Ultim pick with these grip holes in it, and it's got a speed bevel all the way around. So this is, got a bunch of different things going on. 2 millimeters, and most people that would be absolutely enormous, to play. And then you've got, I don't even know if I have it. I've got one in here. This is a 4 mil pick.
Woo! Yeah.
And like at one point, this would have felt like, Godzilla in my hand. It's huge, but now it just feels normal. It just feels, it's not that big. It's just, you know, it, it's not something that you can just go from a 1 mil pick to a 4 mil pick and expect to just be blown away.
Mhm.
Not going to happen. That's just like going from 9s to 13s in strings. It's not going to happen. It's going to feel weird. It's going to take a while to get used to.
Mhm.
But it might be something that if you do work with it for a while, you find that you kind of enjoy it and, play with it and try something new. Nothing can hurt from trying something new.
No, man, and I feel like the other thing that I would probably raise is, if you're in a rut and
Oh, yeah.
you're not practicing things you should be practicing, like, get some of these picks and, like, you're gonna find that it'll make you approach the instrument a little bit differently,
Yeah.
and maybe get you playing the instrument and practicing more with something different so you can get used to it. Let me ask you, can we grab that Breed Love, and can you play just play like a G chord or a D chord or something with those 2 picks so we can see how different, the projection is
If
from
it'll
those?
if it'll come out, I'll play it. Let's see. All right, so we'll start out with. Let's just start out with like a 1 mil.
Okay.
This is a 1 mil, and I'll try to be as consistent as I can.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and then we'll go to like a. I'll just go to like a 3 mil.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's coming through in the thing, but to me, so much more bass response and volume in that.
I heard it. I could hear it
Just
through my phones.
if I don't know if you can hear, like if I try to do the same thing with like a lead type thing. That was the blue, the 1 millimeter. I go into a 3 mil on that.
Yeah. You can hear it.
I mean,
Surprisingly, you can hear it.
yeah. But
That's awesome. What about that 4 mil? I want to hear the 4 mil on that.
4 mil?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this is 4 mil. All right, here. Just so everybody can remember, this is the 1 mil pick. 4 mil. And so lead line type thing like I just did with the 1 mil pick. And then a 4 mil pick.
Ah, man.
So, yeah, it's just like it's like on your amp when you got a fat channel, like you can hit the fat button. I mean, it's fat for a reason. It sounds
Yeah, man. It's super rad. And it's like it is coming through here a bit. Like I can tell the difference. So it's if you're in a room with it, I'm sure people will be like, whoa. Cause like that's the thing about using the Jazz 3s. What I found is when I was younger, man, I really used to dig in with my right hand too much.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I need a thicker pick to chill out.
Slow down.
So like, yeah. So like, that's why I went with a thicker pick. Cause I was like, if this will help me be more precise and not be an excitable boy when I'm playing this instrument and dig, you know what I mean? And dig in too much. It like whatever I can do. And once I did that, man, it's like everybody noticed my playing totally changed and was way more mature and was like all this stuff. And I'm like, yep, I just changed a pick. That's all I did. So it's the same me. But what I find is, so I used those Planet Waves forever, and then I started using those like these what is it, the pitch black Jazz 3s.
Yeah.
And then I found those like grippy Tortexy ones. And you know, I at first I didn't like the grip on these, and then I was like, you know what? It's kind of nice. It's like it doesn't. And if my fingers are grimy, it'll grab, quickly. But then when you sent me this, you know, first of all, explain to me this shape and how you want people to be, or how they should appropriately be using these, because I've tried it both ways,
if I can find one.
and I guess it doesn't matter that you could use it either way, right?
Yeah.
Um, but very comfortable and very ergonomic.
So so the idea behind that pick was to have a pick that you could play both like lead and rhythm guitar. You kind of switch it in your hand back and forth. So this is basically that shape. It's a honey jar,
Hmm.
and it's an asymmetric shape. So I will play like, you know, typical, you know, way you hold a pick like that for like a lead line jazz, because the sharper tip, it's easier for me to play a lead line.
Hmm.
But when I want to, strum a little bit more or do something a little different, I like a little wider tip, and that makes the tone a little warmer, and I don't want it to really project out as much, just kind of sit in the background a little bit more, and a little bit easier to strum through the strings, and then I'll play it, you know, just kind of like that. So
Ah.
I just switch it from there to there in my
Oh
hand,
man,
and
that's
it's
so
I
cool.
mean, there's been a lot of people that really like that pick, really dig that pick for that reason.
Yeah. No, I like it too, man. Like when I first opened up the package and pulled them out, I was like, okay. At first I felt a little scared because I was like, this is thick, man. Like
Yeah,
how am I gonna deal with this? But the more I play with it, like you said, like it just becomes part of
yeah,
you in a way, Like
and
it doesn't feel forced. Like I don't feel like I'm forcing myself to do this. I feel like it's just another adaptable situation for the instrument to be expressive. Um, so it's I'll tell you, I mean, in my whatever 30 years of playing this instrument, I've never played a pick this shape. I've never played a pick this thick. Um, but I dig it, man. It's really, really cool. It's really
yeah,
cool.
and,
So,
that material's rich light too, which is pretty cool.
oh man, that's cool.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, yeah, talk to me a little bit about materials, because I wanted that was on my list here to talk to you about, like, how you decide on what you want to experiment with and what sticks and what doesn't.
Well, so when I first started messing with materials, we were using a laser to cut everything out, so we found out the hard way that laser don't wanna cut out everything. Like
Yeah.
it'll cut out acrylics and, some wood type stuff, but when you get into some different plastics like Ultem, it'll just, like, wanna catch fire, so just stay away from that.
That makes sense.
So we were a little in the beginning, we're a little kinda, could only use so many materials. Now we have a CNC and I can cut out whatever I want. But when you talk about materials, like Delrin, like your Tortex and stuff like that, Delrin gets very warm the thicker you go, but it's also gets kind of slick when you polish it. So you got to be careful with that. Nylon can be kind of bright sounding at times, depending on how you bevel it. Um, I've got a material called Tagua nut, and Tagua nut comes from a palm tree. I believe palm tree in South America. I could be wrong with that.
Hmm.
It's They call it vegetable ivory, and it is super hard. I mean, it is so tough. It is a a super tough pick, but it sounds amazing. Like it has tone, and it lasts forever because it's just such a dense material.
Right.
But that material, if you polish it, it is so slick. So I have to put grips on both sides of that pick to hold on to it. That's kind of the only downfall of that pick.
Man.
And I guess the only other downfall of that pick is you can only go so thin with it before it starts wanting to cup with you. Um,
I see.
so you got that issue too. Uh, this like this pick here, like tortoiseshell, which is made from Galith, or you might have heard people talk about casein.
Mhm.
Uh, it it's a form of very early plastic, but it's made by using casein with formaldehyde and letting it cure. people love this material because they believe it is the closest to like real tortoiseshell to what they said. I've never actually played real tortoiseshell, so I can't really say whether it does or not.
Mm-hmm.
But from people that I've talked to, they have. But it's also great for projecting. A lot of bluegrass players love this pick.
Mm-hmm.
Acrylic is bright for the most part. Kieranite is a form of acrylic. Let's see, where's the I've got some Kieranite in here. So this is a Kieranite pick, which is
That
pretty
looks
cool.
cool, man.
And
I
it's
love
got
it.
it's a form of hardened acrylic. It's a little bit warmer than acrylic is. I really like it. Um, like I showed before, this is Ultim.
Mm-hmm.
Ultim is another really hard pick, really tough, so it lasts a long time, but it also projects really well and is a little warmer than acrylic. Ultim's been really popular lately, and I've really been digging Ultim lately.
Nice.
Really cool. And that Rich Light pick, like what you got, this is Rich Light here.
Mm-hmm.
It comes in different colors and stuff. Rich Light kind of reminds me of wood because it's a lot like wood. It's just like a very, very compressed paper type material. It's like
Mm-hmm.
paper resin,
That's crazy.
and it's just it's really cool. But it will wear quicker, um, but it sounds good.
Yeah.
And what other material is there? There's
Have you guys tried anything? I know you said the stuff about it catching on fire, but have you tried something that you thought was going to be killer and then you were like, "Oh, this didn't work. Bummer."
I think I tried. Well, we tried nylon at thin, and it sounded great, but it just didn't want to. It didn't want to work with the sander that we had. But that was in the first year, so I need to go back and try that again. Um, Resin can be kind of finicky to work with, but it's very warm for people that like really warm picks. A resin pick would be great,
Mm-hmm.
and I do sell those custom shop stuff, and they come in cool swirls, and I mean they're really cool picks.
You guys have the coolest. I mean, they look rad. Like, how do
Yeah.
you come up with the ideas of doing that stuff to like how it aesthetically looks? Because it definitely has a vibe.
A lot of it comes from customers having an idea and sending it to us.
Okay.
And the other part is like my brother is really artistic and he can come up with a lot of that stuff. He's really good with that. And every now and then I'll come up with a good idea. But
That's
it's
funny.
a lot of it's customers. Like we just got done with some cool custom picks. Like we got, let's see, like we just if you know Petty John, I don't know if you
Yeah.
can see the
Mhm.
glitter in that, but
Oh, that's
like
cool.
we do custom picks for them, like 55 custom picks a month for them for new limited pedals that they do every month, and
That's
that's been
cool.
kind of cool working with them. But honestly, customers come up with some pretty cool ideas, and you know, we
You
just go.
got you got your market research from all your people that are coming to you too to give you
It,
feedback. That's cool, man. I mean, that's the thing about like companies like small businesses and things that are like doing this thing how collaborative as a musician it feels to work with companies like you
oh
that
yeah,
are just like, dude, yeah, whatever you can dream up, let's try it kind of thing. Like that's pretty rad.
and it's crazy because I mean I've loved gear for a long time, and so I recognize a lot of the names that come in for orders. Or I'm a group of on a podcast like Patreon page, and so I recognize the names that are going there, or gear forums, and I recognize the names. I'm a huge, uh, you know, Brothers Landreth, Joe Landreth, and Ariel Posen fan, and like I know that you know those guys, so I kind of feel in a way connected.
Yeah, man.
I'm
Do they
only
have
one
any of your
away.
stuff?
I don't think so.
Oh
I don't.
man, you should.
I would send it in a heartbeat to those guys because I am an ultimate fanboy of them guys. So
You do. They would totally be into trying it. You should definitely. I can try to make that introduction too. Not that I'm like the be all end all, but I do know him.
that would
but
be
Joey, because Joey's always trying new stuff, and he's never one to kind of sit and let the moss grow.
yeah.
Like he really. That's just something that I really admire about that guy is his willingness to get uncomfortable
Oh yeah,
constantly. And I think that he kind of just wants to I don't know. Not that he's like trying to I don't think Joey's trying to like push the instrument forward for the sake of pushing it forward, but I think he like generally is like, why should I rest on laurels of these things that have been around for a while? Like, I mean, he's building pedals now. He's like, so it's like I just like his ingenuity. So I think he would be all in and
uh,
totally be a deterrent. So
like watching him, like the gear that he started with. I remember like when he went on Dan and Mick's that pedal show, and just nerding out about his pedal board and how he gets
mhm.
his tones and all that. And then after that all goes on, and then he comes out with all these Chase Bliss pedals, and it's like I never would have thought of him going to
Yeah.
like all these really cool digital pedals, these analog digital pedals. And but he's one of these guys that is just so absolutely gifted as a musician that you could hand him like a broom and a
Mhm.
pencil, and he could make it sound amazing. It just
Yeah. I
it's
know, dude. And the problem with some of those guys too is like that the slide players is that they use their fingers a lot.
yeah,
So it's like they don't really have a need for a pick as much. But I know that those guys do it and they tuck it. So I know
yeah,
that there's times when they're using it. Like I've seen RL play live and he tucks it and then he
yeah,
pulls it back out. Um, but dude, it's so fun to kind of see like what you guys have been doing with this stuff. Like, because I've only known about you guys for a little while because of this pick that Buddy sent me, and then I like kind of looked into it. I'm like, I need some new picks. I should try something new. Um, but it's fun to see all these companies on Instagram just like creating this crowd of people who are all part. It feels like everybody's part of it,
yeah,
you know, especially when you get on board and you buy some of your picks and you're like, then I become a fanboy of like lifting everybody up, wanting everybody to succeed with this stuff. And it's
yeah.
just, yeah.
And it feels just like good vibes from everybody. Like there's no real. You might have a couple, people be like, who's gonna spend that much on a pick? That's stupid and blah blah blah. I mean, but that's gonna happen. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't I don't let that bother me. That's what it is, because overwhelmingly people are like just really nice and love the picks, and I know they really like the picks because they buy them again.
Yeah.
That's what tells me that we're doing something right. When we get repeat orders, that means the most to me.
Yeah.
So, but guys like, I mean, meeting you and then like Buddy, man, talk about super nice guy and crazy gifted musician. I mean, just he can play.
Yeah,
And
man.
different guys like that I've got to meet that I've been watching on YouTube or just know through the forums and things like that. It's really neat to see you guys actually holding my pick and play it. Like, feel really humbled, you know.
It's a fun community, man. And like your brother saying, the multicolored, is it current, how do you pronounce that? Is
Your night pick.
Kieranite pick from
Yeah.
the scrap Kieranite is my favorite pick. Is that like a swirly crazy colored one? Did he make like a crazy?
That was really cool. He took when we cut out the picks, and then it leaves a little bit of extra. So he took, I think on that pick he used 14 slices of Kieranite. He took 7 on each side, and he kind of just sandwiched them together. And the inside, I think the center of that pick was Tagua nut. And so
Mm,
on one side was like 7 piece of Kieranite, and then Tagua center, and then 7 piece Kieranite on the other side. It was wild, and it was so cool. And that
man.
that went to a good friend that has been ordering custom picks from us, and it's he orders those for a really cool reason, and kind of a personal reason that he does it. But it's so cool to meet guys like that, and I've become like actual like good friends with some of these customers. So it's really cool to see it go to those guys.
That's awesome, dude. BV saying that when Joey was in a couple weeks ago, he wished he would have known so he could have talked about honey picks with him. But it's crazy to think that there are enough people out there in the world that aren't even like willing to try something new,
Yeah,
like spend a little bit extra money on a pick just to see,
yeah,
because you never know what you're gonna fall in love with. And like honestly, dude, like unless you're Mike McCready and you're throwing handfuls of picks out, you're gonna have these for a long time, man. Like I some of these Jazz threes are probably 6 years old and they're
Yeah,
just around. So
yeah,
it's the same thing like with yours. I mean, dude, I've used this at every gig. It's barely shown anywhere,
yeah,
and I'm talking like I use this all night.
yeah.
So it's like that's a 3-hour
It
gig.
it
And
does. I mean, you pay more, but it lasts longer. You
yeah,
know, it,
it's like getting elixir strings or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's the
and
same
I've
thing.
and I've heard a lot of people say like, "Oh, I'm not going to pay that much money for a pick I'll lose." But when you pay 25 cents for a pick, you don't really think about, you don't really value it that much. So if you lose it, nah, not a big deal. But if you're paying a little bit more money for a pick, you're going to be more cautious with it. You're not gonna you don't put it back in your wallet, or you're gonna put it in your, you know,
Hmm.
pick chain or whatever. But
Yeah, I have a little cigar box thingy that's like a little guy that I keep all my picks
oh yeah,
in my case. So it's like there's probably whatever 15 picks in there, but like this is one of them. But then I keep the other one in my wallet just in case something were to happen
oh yeah,
where is my picks? Where
right.
you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like it fundamentally changes the way that I approach using this. Like you're saying, you're a little bit more precious with that stuff.
Yeah,
But I'm not precious while I'm playing. So
right.
I'm not like, because you know the drill, man. Sometimes, and this is my problem with a lot of picks, dude. They're all black. If you're playing in a club and the lights are down and you drop it,
Yeah,
I can't see where that went.
that's
Like,
right.
do you know what I
That's
mean? So if you got these bright color cool picks, dude, that was my same concept when I got these fitted ear molds. Look what color I went with.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I
Because
love it.
if they fell out of my ear on a stage and
Yeah,
it's dark, it's gone. If
yeah,
it's clear or if it's black or something, or I'm just not gonna see it. So it's the same kind of thing, dude. It's you know what I mean.
right.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, so what is there like Milkman amps? There's a whole thing behind that situation. Where does Honey Picks come from? Is that like a family tradition? Is there something attached to
It's
you guys?
kind of well, okay. So I live in a very small rural town, Taylorsville, North Carolina. I mean, there's more uh, chicken farms than there are, anything else. I mean,
People.
it's just, yeah, it's crazy. We're real small, and so one of the things our little town's known for is apple orchards. And so we got a bunch of apple orchards in the northern part of the county, and they sell local honey. Well, they rely on these bees to keep the orchards in you know, good health and everything. And they have local honey every year. And we have a big Apple City festival every year. It's like the biggest thing that happens in Taylorsville. And
Nice.
so that's like the only reason that people from out of this area, like that come from other counties and come here,
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome.
so when we were thinking about naming our picks, I wanted it to be something that meant something locally. Like to me, like somebody said, "Why don't you name it Rick's Picks?" I was like, "That is the most cliche, dumbest thing
Yeah.
I've ever heard," and I would never name, Rick's Picks. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
So Honey Picks came about, and I was like, "Man, that just sweet tone." It just kind of, and I thought we could run with it with like bee themed stuff and honey themed stuff, things like that. So that's where
Mhm.
Honey Picks comes from.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I love that about, anybody that has some sort of smaller business where you're tying in your roots, you
yeah,
know? That just speaks, and that's the thing, that's why Buddy likes you, that's why I like what you're doing, is like you guys are real people doing something real for musicians, providing a service for creativity and spontaneity and music, and I think that is by far the main reason we would want to support any business like yours
yeah,
is just like real people who are doing something that is super passionate, like in their heart, and like you can tell that you guys put a lot into what you're doing.
yeah. Yeah, and
So,
they are, I mean, I've said it before, like they're a labor of love. Like you see a pick like this and you just see the pick you know, but when I look at it, I also think about how much time I've put into getting the bevels right, sanding it, hand sanding it, finishing it, looking it over before I ship it to make sure everything's right.
Mhm.
It's because I want the picks to go out and like people really enjoy them. I want people to really love them, and so it's kind of fun.
That's awesome, dude. That's I mean, that's what it's all about, man. I mean, let's
It
be
is.
real. It's really what it's all about. Um, the only other thing that I wanted to do here is do the lightning round get down. Are you
All
ready to
right.
do this?
Yeah, man, let's go.
All right. So it's funny because you touched on something earlier that's going to be part of this. So it's a little bit of foreshadowing earlier. I didn't mention it when it happened, but it will be part of it. You'll know when it comes up. All right. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna put that metronome on. We're gonna let
All
that
right.
sucker bleed into this mic a bit. And then you know the drill. If you want to explain your answers, I love hearing explanations, but you do not have to do that, my friend. You can just burn right through them if you want.
All right.
First one's always the same: Lennon or McCartney.
McCartney.
Okay.
I mean, what else is there to say?
Powerade or Gatorade.
Gatorade.
All right. Straight or right angle cables.
Right angle.
Okay. Especially with that 335, right?
Yeah, man.
Top Gun, the original, or Maverick?
I haven't
New
seen the
movie.
second one. Haven't seen
Oh,
the second
dude.
I haven't seen
Here's
it.
the thing. Here's the thing. I am not a Tom Cruise fan. I
Yeah.
really kind of don't like him.
Oh,
But
really?
not a huge fan. I don't know what it is. Like, I feel like my wife and I got into those Mission Impossible movies. And then I think at some point I was like, God, he's a little bit much. He's a little bit much. I can't watch. But Maverick, really, really good movie,
That's
man.
and
Really
that's
good.
what I've heard. Everybody that I heard wants to see the movie said it was great. I need to go see
Oh,
it.
it's so great. All right, for ice cream, toppings, sprinkles or hot fudge.
No, it's gotta be hot fudge, man. I'm not big on sprinkles.
All right. Me either, man. I love the hot fudge or caramel. Ooh, peanut butter, melted peanut butter.
Oh,
Ooh.
oh
Oh.
yeah.
All right, hardtail or Bigsby?
Bigsby.
Oh, okay. Is there a Bigsby on your 335?
No, and I've never actually owned a Bigsby, but every time I've played a Bigsby, like my tremolo is usually like a little bit goes a long ways, but with like a
Mhm.
Bigsby when I played, it's like, oh no, you got all this wiggle room for not much. Like
Right?
vibrato is not that much, but you got to dig. So
Yeah.
that's kind of fun. I want to get me some kind of semi hollow, maybe a Gretsch with a
Oof.
Bigsby on it.
Oh, that would be dope. American or British voiced amplifiers?
Ah, man, that is tough. Um, I'll say American only because I can put that's my favorite clean tone, and then I can just put any kind of dirt pedal that's British flavored in front of that.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough. Monopoly or Clue?
Monopoly.
Okay. All right. Here's a question. It's not more of a this and that, but is the book always better than the film?
Trying to think if I will say this. I was not a big book reader when I was a kid and I always enjoyed the film. And so since I've not read all the books, I'm just going to say it's not always better because I didn't read them. So
Okay.
I'm going to say the movie's pretty good.
All right. And then the last one, always the same too. If you could take one record and erase it from your memory, so like you've never heard it before,
I'll say
just
the
so
phone.
you could go back and experience it for the first time again, what record do you think that would be?
A record that I could erase from memory just so I could enjoy it again.
For the first time, yeah.
Okay, I know what it is. Okay,
Okay.
so when I was like I was born in '86, so like growing up in the '90s, and Hootie and the Blowfish cracked view mirror or how's this? Is that
I
right?
know what
Cracked,
you're talking about. I can't remember the name of the record, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
yes,
Tell
that
me,
one,
tell me why.
dude. When I first got that CD, and that's like when I first got a CD player, I had like maybe just a couple CDs, and that was one of them. I think Alan Jackson was one of them, and then that one. And
Nice.
I just remember thinking, man, like hold your hand or hold my hand and Hannah Jane and I mean it just like seemed like that whole CD, that whole album was nothing but like #1 singles to me.
Hits.
And
I
like
know.
just awesome. And so, and the guitar on that was kind of cool. And then his voice was awesome. You know, Darius Rucker was great. That was probably my first band, like real band that I just was like fanboying over as a kid. You know,
Okay. Okay, that's fair. That seems like the right time for you in that moment too.
yeah,
Like it seems like that makes sense because at that point I was already in high school. So for me, it's like I was so deep in the grunge and stuff. It didn't even hit my ears. But you know, it's funny. When I had Josh Scott on last week, we did a deep dive in our favorite '90s records
yeah.
because he's a nerd like me with that stuff. And he mentioned Bringing Down the Horse, the Wallflowers record.
Oh yeah,
And that's an album that I have probably rebought a couple times because I had it on tape and then I bought it on CD and then I lost it and then I bought it as a digital version, whatever, later. That's in that same camp with me where it's like guilty pleasures of
mhm,
music. Do you know what I mean? But that record probably came out right around the same time as that Hootie record, I think.
probably. Was that like mid-90s or something?
Probably like
Like,
96, 95 ish.
yeah, it's
Probably
gotta be
around
in that
then.
same area. Yeah,
Yeah. But like it's like that Laurel Canyon type vibe, but like I felt like Hootie almost had like the more of the Margarita vibe.
yeah. Oh,
Like
yeah, yeah,
Margaritaville style.
yeah,
I felt like that was the side of that industry at that time that was a complete juxtaposition too
yeah.
from what was going on when you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have a song. I think Hootie played. They had a record. They had a song on the record Iconium, which was a tribute to Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
Have you ever heard that record?
I don't think so.
It's hard to find. I have it on tape somewhere. Um, but it was a bunch of amazing artists that all they picked Led Zeppelin tunes and covered them.
Man, I've never heard that would be awesome. I never heard that.
I don't even know if that's going to be on streaming anywhere, but like if it's not, it's a shame because there was a lot of great stuff on that record. And
That's
I'm
cool.
pretty sure they were on that and they might have done oh, I don't know what hey, what can I do? They might have done that
Yeah,
song, which makes sense for them. But like Blind Melon was on there and all these other great like Stone Temple Pilots was on there. They did Dancing Days. Oh man, it's a great record. Give them to check out.
that'd be cool. I need to check that out. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, man. Well, Rick, dude, thank you so much for making some time to hang out with me and talk about picks and music and everything. I really appreciate you.
Oh, yeah, man. Thanks, Mark. I mean, this has been a blast for me. I can talk about picks all day, so this has been a fun hang for me, so I really appreciate you having me, man.
Awesome, dude. Tell everybody where they can find everything if they're interested in getting some picks and following you guys and whatnot.
So if you wanna, like, order some picks or check some picks out, just go to, honey-picks.com. And then on socials, just Instagram's at honey.picks, and Facebook is, I don't know, just type in honey picks. I'll come up and, you know, just go to Google, use the Google machine, type in honey picks. I should come up.
There you go. And I will say this, guys, if you end up following them on Instagram, bunch of great pictures and ways to view what kind of inventory and products they have and what cool stuff they have coming out. And Rick is amazing and answers DMs. So if you have questions about the picks, he was super helpful when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with the size and all that stuff. So make sure you hit them up. They are amazing and you guys should support them because it's a wonderful product. So
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
yeah, of course, buddy. So hang tight, everybody else. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.